Thanks, JT.
And let's use the microphone. Anybody? Somebody?
CJ, as publicly and privately active you were in recruiting guys to come join you here, how would you describe your reaction to see them end up in other jerseys?
I wasn't surprised. I think as a player in the NBA, you want your team to be as good as possible. So you want to put yourself in a position to be as good as possible. And if you feel like there's someone that can help your team, then you're going to reach out to them or speak to them or at least express that. And I think we live in an era and a day and age now where a lot of players are moving around and going to different places and trying to win and doing different things. And I feel like as a player in the city, it's your responsibility to get better, and it's also your responsibility to try to help your team get better.
It's just me and you, man. When you look at all the sort of the power shift to the West, and particularly Northwest Division, how do you think you guys stack up?
I think we'll be all right. Obviously, a lot of teams got better on paper, but there's also a different element to basketball. As you see teams go through each year, there has to be chemistry, there has to be cohesiveness, and there has to be a willingness to sacrifice. And it's yet to be determined on how those other teams will fare in some of those categories. Obviously, they have star power and they have good players, but there's only one basketball. And every team goes through it, figuring out who's going to take what shot. And a lot of teams have a lot of players who could take that shot at the end of the game. But I think it's good. As a competitor, you like to see the league improve. You like to see competition. I think it brings out the best in everyone. So I'm looking forward to it.
CJ, what's next in your evolution as a player?
That's a good question. I think that, each year in the league you get more experience, you get more familiar with the day-to-day lifestyle, the competitiveness on the court, and how to properly prepare for each game. I think there comes a time where it's just small incremental improvements where you're working on certain things, getting a better understanding of play calls, not just your team's play calls, but familiarity and how other teams execute certain sets, how they want to guard you. And I think, obviously, from a defensive standpoint, the more knowledge you have on the teams you're playing against, the more personnel, the more informed you are on personnel and sets and stuff like that. It makes the game a lot easier. But I just want to continue to figure out ways to make small improvements and be as efficient as possible, be consistent, and stay healthy and try to help the team win. But I think it's, there comes a point in time where, numbers and all that stuff doesn't matter. It's about winning. It's about making your team better. And you should look like an improved player, even if it doesn't necessarily translate to better on paper stats.
CJ, what do you think it is important for, as far as a mindset for this team to have as you guys enter training camp?
I think that we need to be competitive. We need to have a chip on our shoulder. We need to be accountable for our actions, our words, and our preparation each day. Obviously, as everyone's seen, the NBA has gotten better, especially in the Western Conference, especially in our division. And there's not going to be any easy nights. And every game is crucial. Every game is important. And I think the stakes have raised because of how good everyone is. You can't have bad road trips. You can't have as many bad losses. And you can't have poor starts, because a bad start to this season could be the end of the season before it gets started, if you get what I'm saying. So it's important that we all have that mindset. Expectations may not be that high for us, or we may not even be favored to make the playoffs and things of that nature, but I think it's about how we approach each game and how we approach this upcoming training camp, because we could win 47, 48, 50 games, or we could win 32 and be in the lottery. So it's about how we approach this season.
CJ, in the league today, one of the most important ways that teams can get better is when players, stars on the team, recruit other stars to come in to play in that city. Mm-hmm. Here in Portland, when you try to recruit a star player to come on the Blazers, what are you up against?
Well, I've only actively recruited 2 players that have been documented. So, I think that players understand what the city of Portland is like based on their small experiences here. And depending on where they play, if it's East Coast swing, usually you're in and out of the city, back-to-back maybe. Or you have a game in the next couple of days and you're flying to another city and you're only getting the element of staying probably in the Nines Hotel downtown. So as a player who's telling another player about the city, you're explaining to them exactly what it's like, the day-to-day life, what you do, and how you feel like they can help your team. I think there comes a certain point in time where guys just want to win. Certain guys want to play with their friends, and certain guys want to make a lot of money. So you just have to figure out, what type of person you're talking to, because the city could matter, the city could not matter. The location on the map geographically could matter to some players, whereas to other players, it couldn't play a factor at all. Some people want to be further away from home. Some people want to be closer to home. So there's a lot of, different things that go into recruiting. But from a basketball standpoint, I think we all know what we bring. We all know how certain teams, execute, how certain teams are known across the league from a reputation standpoint. So as a player, it's your job to explain to them what you think the reputation is, how you perceive the roster, how you perceive the future of the organization. And at the end of the day, we're friends with a lot of guys. Some of you guys may be familiar with who we're friends with, and some of you guys may have no idea. So I'm sure there's a lot of discussions across the league from guys who are friends just talking about their city in general. And could be considered recruiting, I guess, but it's just more about what's it like living there.
Nurk told us, CJ, that he's lost about 35 pounds.
Yeah.
Talk about what you've seen from him, and is he a different player?
He looks good. He looks good. I think he has a lot of incentive and motivation to come back, having gotten a taste of success. He had a taste of success at the end of last season, playing extremely well. He was efficient, he was effective, and then he had an injury. So that gave him a little setback. So I think as a player, sometimes you become paranoid. You know what I mean? You get hurt and you want to make sure that you're as good as you were before or better, so you work that much harder. And I think you've seen that with him. He's worked extremely hard. He's gotten his body into great shape. He looks good. His face is thin. And I think he's excited for the season to go through a full year of training camp, which is going to be huge for all of us because, it's funny, for those 20 or 21 games he played, we probably used about 50% of the play, but we wouldn't call certain plays because we knew. There's no way he knows this because we got guys who've been here 3 years and they don't know these plays. So it's going to be interesting to see how fast he catches along through training camp and how much of the playbook we can use going forward. But I think from a chemistry standpoint, we connected pretty fast. Obviously, the league had to adjust to, the style of play with going from Mason to Nurk, two different players. But I think that he put himself in a position to have a lot of success this season and to help our team.
CJ, Damian made a point at exit interviews last year talking about accountability and how the team needed to be more accountable. Does that mean anything for you as one of the leaders of this team, like not only for holding yourself accountable, but how one does that with teammates as well?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it. Dame and I speak often, speak with the coaching staff, and being accountable and holding others accountable doesn't mean necessarily yelling at them. And that's one of the things we talked about. It's not about being demonstrative or poor body language, or I call a play and someone doesn't execute it right and I kind of make it known so that everybody in the stands knows that they messed up the play. I think it's just more about developing relationships with guys, being friends with them, understanding how you can talk to certain players. Certain players you can yell at and curse at, and certain players you need to be more soft towards. And I think everybody is different. So it's just more about understanding how to talk to people. And then one of the things that we discussed is, I'm not afraid to be coached. I've grown up in, a nice environment to where my mom says whatever she feels and thinks, even to this day. So just making examples out of me is totally fine in front of the whole team. I think that's accountability, being able to be coached, being able to be corrected on certain issues and things that are happening, embrace it and move forward and not take it personal. I think that's a sign of accountability as well.
CJ, you said players kind of go through different iterations of their career where either they want to play with friends, they want to make money, or they want to win. I find it interesting that both you and Dame today have talked about stats don't matter, we want to win.
Well,
talk about that evolution of you getting to that point and why now?
I think as a younger player, I'm only 26, but as a younger player, you try to find your niche in the league. And if you're known as a scorer, you have to score. or you're going to be out. Yeah, especially if you're undersized or you're in a position where you're going through different things. Maybe you're facing injuries. Like if you're known as a distributor and you don't distribute, they're going, why do we have you here? If you're a defender and you don't guard, like what's the point? You know what I mean? So you try to find your niche, or they give you a niche, and then you have to perform to those expectations. And I think there comes a time where you get credibility as to who you are and what you are in this league, and usually it happens in your first 4 or 5 years. You get a label, and that label sticks with you forever, and you're in that box, and that's who you are as a player forever. So people know that I can score the basketball. People know that I can do it at a pretty efficient clip, and although it's only been 2 seasons, I think that, you know, when I retire, they'll know that I was good at that, very good at it, and very efficient for a long time. But they forget about those type of things. They forget about who scored 50 points or 40 points or how many times you scored 25. No one cares. All people care about is, did he win? Did he make his teammates better? What did he do for his community? So I think there comes a time where you mature and you understand that, for one, I make a lot of money. Right? It's documented, it's well documented, everybody knows that. So I'm able to take care of my family. I'm in a position where I can do a lot of things I wasn't able to do before. So I have that comfort there, and I have that confidence because I've worked hard for everything I've earned. But now it's about winning. And I've proven myself, and like I said before, I'll be a better player this year. The numbers may show it, it may not, but from a complete package standpoint, from leadership to doing the right things off the court, to making the extra pass, to defending, to boxing out, to whatever it takes, I just want to win because as you've seen in the past, people forget about certain things, but they don't forget about winning. Winning lasts forever, and that's how you build a legacy, and that's what we're trying to do here. And we realize that, you know, there comes a time where you have to mature and you have to do what's best for the team. And I think a lot of us have gotten to that point. And it helps when you're secure financially, because it makes it that much easier, because it's like, yeah, we're all going to get paid regardless, but we'll get paid more and we'll have more things that we want in life if we win. And if you don't, we had the talk with Mason last year, and he said it. He said, if we lose, someone's getting traded. They're going to break this team up. And we were losing, and what happened? So it's like that every year. Like, they're not going to just give all this money away for mediocrity. So we need to win, and we're going to do whatever it takes to win.
CJ, did your workout regimen change this year, and are you a lot stronger? Looks like it.
Yeah, I've adjusted some things over the course of my summer from a training standpoint, just figuring out different ways to maximize work versus rest, versus recovery, versus vacation. So I think I'm stronger right now than I have been. I think part of that is just maturing, getting older. Another part is just figuring out how to train, figuring out what things you need to work on from a physical standpoint, from a physicality standpoint, and just taking advantage of the resources. Our staff does a great job. Our organization does a great job of providing things that you need and things that you want. So if I'm in a city and, you know, I want our strength coach to be there, the team puts us in a position to have that. Or if I'm flying out the country and I want to be able to get skill work and get conditioning in, they'll put us in a position to have those things. So it makes life that much easier. And I think that as you get older, you take more advantage of those things, and the better you are, the easier it is to get some of those resources that may not be afforded to you in the past.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more. We've got to move it along.
Let's talk about your hairstyle. We've seen you change your hairstyle like a couple of times since you came to the league.
I have.
And like, in what situation you decide to, like, oh, I want a new hairstyle?
I go through phases. You know, it's I tell my girl, it's kind of like a woman. You know, you look at yourself and you're like, I need to change something. And I started off with the low fade, or the low even all the way around. And as I got older, I realized I wanted to go back to high school, you know, when I had the afro. So I grew the afro out. And then I went through another phase to where, you know, I always liked Kobe. So I wanted a nappy afro. So then I grew it out even more. And then we started losing. So I was like, I got to change. We're losing. This is my hair. So I changed it, and then we started winning. So I said, I can't cut it because we're winning. And that's kind of how it's been for me. And I just kind of go with the flow. Some days I cut it shorter than others. I cut it pretty short in the summer. And then I was like, I kind of missed the fro. So I grew the top, and then I cut the sides. And If we start losing, then maybe I'll cut it off and just go bald. You know, you never know. But if we're winning, I'll keep it, and maybe the next experiment will be the mustache.
What was this offseason like for you off the court? You know, you got a chance to do the sideline reporting, and then also, you know, getting a chance to model some clothes and stuff like that. What was this like for you, man?
I'm a model. It was a very fun summer. I did a lot of things off the court from a journalistic standpoint, to doing interviews, to working for ESPN, to, like you said before, making some partnerships with some great brands and some great people, and traveling, doing work with the NBA, doing work with UNICEF, learning more about the country, learning more about other countries, and going to Harvard. There was a lot of things I did this summer that were bucket list, things that I wanted to do in the past, but it may have been frowned upon due to mediocre performance on the court, so I had to shy away from certain things because I wasn't playing a lot and I was hurt and I wasn't as effective as I would have liked to be. So I had to put some things on the back burner, but now I just, if there's something I like and it's something I want to do, I just do it. And that's kind of how I approach this summer.
CJ, I understand you FaceTime quite often this summer with Evan. One, why? And two, how much do you think just him not having that acclimation process will help him this
Who
year?
told you that I FaceTimed him a lot?
Sources.
I think, for one, Evan is funny as curse words. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, and he's got a good personality, and you know, he went to Ohio State, and I think that he's going to be a crucial part to our team, and I wanted to develop a better relationship with him, establish that connection, because I always say if you can trust someone off the court, it's easier to trust them on the court, and that's kind of how you go through that process. It's just like in all jobs and careers. If you have a better relationship with someone, you're more inclined to pass them the ball. You're more inclined to look out for them, and the other part of it was I was going to the Ohio State game, and I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was still going to the Ohio State game. But no, in all seriousness, I think he's just a good guy. He's a funny dude, and I enjoy being around him. I'm sure the other guys do as well because of his personality, and he's going to help us this season. And I have to return the favor and take him to an SEC game next year. So I'm looking forward to it.
One last question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it'll be a lot easier for him. For one, when he was playing his best basketball, he ended up breaking his hand, so that kind of set him back. And it's easy to talk about injuries, but once you go through it, you really see how it is. You know, you can't play, your conditioning's not the same, the timing's off, you can't shoot if it's your right hand. And I had an index finger injury, so I noticed like to break a finger, but breaking your hand and having to shoot is a whole nother process. So the fact that he'll have training camp, his hand will be fresh, he'll be more acclimated with the plays, he'll be more comfortable with running some point guard, some point forward, initiating offense. I think that summer and this preseason will be big for us.
CJ, how is your ranking of media coming along? Who's participating? And were you at all surprised at the response you got from that comment?
I didn't really think what I said was that serious, and people that know me know that I said it in like a half-heartedly joking way, and people that don't took offense to it, which is just fine because it's America. And honestly, I for a while I was really serious about it, and there are actually a lot of players who like really want to do this, and we've talked about it. The playership, and we've talked to them about it, and it's in the works if we want it to happen. We've talked about ways to make it happen, and it's actually pretty funny because we're really close to doing it. I don't know if we will. Preseason's here now, and if we don't do it before the preseason's over, it's not getting done. But you'd be surprised how many players want to share their opinions on that topic, and how I had to steer them in a different direction from saying certain things, because some guys just, I guess they don't really care what people think about them at all. So they were ready to do some things that I don't think would have been good for their careers. That's the
All
truth.
right. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks, CJ.